One. All right, welcome to the Sunnyside, another installment of the team previews. I'm your host, Al, and I'm sure you can already see the difference right now. We have the man, the myth, the legend, the original analytical godfather. If they made cameras back when he played, his mid-range floater package highlights would be ridiculous. Some would say he's probably the Kyrie of this duo because he kind of just shows up when he wants. Told me he's not going to play until his team comes around here. And you can see just by all his gear that Pops is draped out in. And the Sunnyside, welcome, Pops. How we doing, man?
Doing good, man. Thanks for that. Thanks for that intro. Sporting my 2014 OVC championship shirt. Of course, that team and always go down as one of my favorites. And Corey Walden is my all-time favorite EKU player.
There we go, man. Yeah, it's I definitely had that team already down for us to talk about. So I'm glad you prefaced that. The cat's out of the bag. If you didn't know already, we're Kentucky people, born and raised in Richmond, Kentucky, Colonel fans to start off with. I'll try to give you a little unbiased perspective on here, but it's hard for both of us not to kind of get hyped up about talking to this team. Pops, is probably going to be hard for us to keep this under 8 hours. Probably have to take this, film this a few times just to chop us up. Yeah, this could be any conversation me and him have on a daily basis. So let's get right into it, man. Why not? Let's stop fooling around. Just like we start every single one, the team previews, we'll start with the coach and just kind of his history here. It's A.W. Hamilton, career record as a coach here at Eastern is 64-60. It's good for 51%. Comes from Hargrave Military Academy, which had just crazy amounts of success, played the same kind of style of ball, gets the guys, expert recruiter, plays a style that is probably a freaking great style to play in, especially for kids coming in. From right here, Georgetown, Kentucky, man. Big shout out to Georgetown, Kentucky, right at Scott County, man. Just seeing him coming back here and coach it has just been a really cool thing, not only for the program, but for the city as well. And really, to go with that too, just him getting the kids from Kentucky, bringing kids from the state of Kentucky has just been really cool to watch. Their last tournament appearance was 2013, 2014. Shout out to Corey Walden, absolute dog. Playing in, I think, the Spanish league now. I mean, and I'm sure giving fits to whoever he guards, whoever it is, he will probably give fits until he stops playing basketball. They've only had one season over 500 since A-Dub's been there, and that's 2021. Made it to the Final Four of the OVC, and once again, I mean, just like the A-Sun is this year, that's no joke. That's a good finish. Had Wendell Green, now at Auburn, point guard number 1, first team All OVC during that year, first team All OVC tourney, and Trey King as well from that team was a first team All OVCer. Kind of preface the whole thing, I think Wendell Green is almost like a good starting point to kind of where we're going to go with the conversation as a team. Just having A-Dub here, man, him being from Kentucky, that's got to feel special, right?
Yeah, look for sure, and he's a big community guy. Just already could probably be the mayor of Richmond. Incredibly popular guy, real players coach. So yeah, he's. I think the community's all in with A-Dub.
Yeah, I mean, broke season ticket holder like records already. We went to the first open practice, and it was like 250 people deep, and sometimes during the Dan McHale era, you couldn't get 250 people to show up to a game. So I think that says something to just who he is and how he approaches things. And really, the next part we always go into is kind of a team synopsis from the last year. 13-18 overall, so a little disappointing. 5-11 in the conference. Had wins over Bellarmine, North Alabama in OT, Kent State in OT. That whole OT thing, Pops, we can't. I mean, it's like every year it feels like they have close games.
Yeah, look, I think maybe just unpack that a little bit. You come off the 21-win season, yeah, you lose Wendell Green, but you return what you think is a pretty solid core, and expectations are sky high. So yeah, you got to think that's a big disappointment to finish the way they did.
Yeah, like the finish, and then you had some spots even in the conference where you had you beat Kennesaw State, you beat North Florida, you beat Lipscomb. Those are all teams that are going to be in it this year to win it. Like they're going to be at the top, and you beat them, and had a lot of close games too that they could have finished out, that they didn't finish. Played Western Kentucky close. Win over Northern Kentucky. Played West Virginia real close, which they always seem to play non-conference games really tight with people, even the big guys, and it maybe has something to do with style of play a little bit. Had guys, and we'll talk about their departures later, but like Braxton Beverly, the 17 games, Jansen Williams at 24 games, and Aaron Bennett, 10 games last year. Really, the hype around those three, and we'll kind of get to that later, but the hype around those three and then them not being able to play, I know for us, man, we talked about it a ton. We were so hyped up to kind of see what they brought in, but it was just like old veterans, old injured veterans, man. It was kind of tough to not see them play as much as we thought, right?
Yeah, especially if you brought back the core from the 21 win team, and you add these veterans. I think expectations pretty high, and yeah. So it's a disappointment, especially that it didn't work out for those guys that we did they did bring in.
Yeah, and that really more than anything, like not for us, but just for Braxton Beverly was a hell of an ACC guard for years, and to see him, come back home and really not have that chance to just be the guy here. You just hope that he lit the place up. But last year, 11th in conference in rebounding, always kind of been a struggle. 11th in points allowed. First in 2-point attempts and 3-point attempts. I'm sure that doesn't surprise you, Pops. 12th in defensive 2-point percentage. I thought was surprising. 7th in offensive and 3-point percentage, and 11th defensively, and 5th in points per game. Now, according to KenPom, 329th in assists to field goals made. I think that's important. 329th in assists to field goals made. That's key. 24th in highest tempo. And really, if you look at the top 25 of those tempo ratings, it's kind of hard there's not a lot of teams you can circle in there and say, hey, that's a really good team. I think being in the top 25 of tempo is kind of one of those things you got to tiptoe on. Like, is it really good? Is it hurting us? Is it not hurting us? Some of those teams in the top 25 are very good, but not a lot of them. 39th in steal percentage, 44th offense. 44% of the offense comes from 3-point attempts, and that's good for 4th in the country, which that's something I did not know. 21st in turnover percentage and 14th in steal percentage. Anything pop out to you there? I'm sure you knew, the tempo's obvious. The 3-point attempts are pretty obvious. Anything else that popped out to you?
Look, I think statistically this is what it sort of proves out what the record was, right? I mean, there's some positive things in there that the style of play accomplished what you hope it would accomplish with turnovers and with the tempo. But at the end of the day, when you give up that many points and you give that kind of rebound margin, particularly with all the offensive rebounds, the result's not going to be good, and it wasn't.
Yeah, that the rebounding margin I thought was interesting. Like we know we kind of struggle in that. The attempts are there, which I'm sure that all the coaching staff loves to hear that. The attempts were already there, that if you can just increase your percentage of shooting those, some of those losses, those 11 losses, you might win 2 or 3 of those if you just increase that by 5%, right? Like that's a big deal. So I think there's something to be said by kind of that regression, like back and forth, that roller coaster ride. So we might see that low last year, might see it kind of peak up this year. But once again, I'm gonna keep going with this Wendell Green thing just because I feel like it's the right thing to do. The 329th in assists to field goals made, I think is an important stat, and I think that's something that they are going to improve on big time this year. That will actually make a huge jump for them. Now we're going to go to the section which I think and I always mention this, but the transfer portal, if anybody watches these things, everybody needs to know who left and who's coming in. I think that's the biggest thing. Just like a free agency in NBA now, you kind of just need to know who's on your team. So the first departure, and probably the one that hurt my heart the most, is Kurt Lewis. 6'4", 6'5", forward, 9 points per game, 5 rebounds, 1.2 steals, below 35% each year from behind the line, and around 25 minutes a game. 16th in win shares in 2021, 11th in box plus or minus in 2021, had a player efficiency rating of 13th in 2021, top 20 in defensive rebound in both seasons, top 13 in steals both years. Really, in my eyes, probably not your only, but you're definitely your top 1 through 5 switchable defender. Started 33 games as a Colonel. For me, this is the biggest loss. I think when EKU got him, it was like, this guy's prototype for this system, right? He can play that up tempo. He's athletic. He'll get after you on the defensive end, and he can shoot a little bit. What do you think Kurt's loss, or just how do you sum up EKU losing Kurt Lewis?
Yeah, look, one of the reasons I was sky high on the team last year it was because Kurt was returning, right? I thought that I think I even predicted the guy would be all conference last year, and like I'm not sure that you can't write that off to some kind of injury. He didn't seem to have the bounce he did the year before. Not nearly as athletic, the sort of finisher that he was the year before. So you just wonder about that. If maybe he didn't have some kind of nagging injury coming along there last year.
Yeah, it's a great point, because all those numbers I listed, they were all better in 2021, not last year. 20 and 2021, it was all better for him. And really, it did seem like at times, like that knee, it looked like a knee, didn't have the same bounce, like you said. Like freshman year, it looked like he could just get up and almost windmill anything. And then I think last year he didn't have very many just dunks in general. So we wish Kurt the best. I think he's a hell of a basketball player. The next departure we'll talk about is Jansen Williams, 6'9", shooter, big man, out of originally at Marshall, averaged 4 rebounds throughout his career, right at about 8 points per game throughout his career. Great shot blocker. I think any all-time Marshall leader in shot blocking. Average over a block each of his last 4 years, 3rd in blocks per game, the A-Sun. Played in 24 games and started 13 of them. Really, it's another guy, man. Probably we're going to talk about injuries with all these departures. It's another guy who it was like he could get going, and then it was something that happened. Like the next game, he was just hurt up, and sometimes it was like the dude was just out there with pure heart, just the reason on the floor. Like, I mean, he looks like he was hurting going up down the floor, but still trying to play. And sometimes we'll just light it up, right? Like he would make one, and you're like, okay, 5 of these bad boys are about to go in right now. Seemed like a great kid. Got to meet him. Really hate that he didn't, with the injuries and everything, it didn't just pan out for him. But Jansen Williams, in my opinion, will be a pro somewhere, Pops. I think he's got that style of game, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's really typical sort of stretch 4 or 5 European kind of game, and like you said, pretty much a really strong leader type. I think in the locker room. So yeah, it's a shame it didn't go better for him.
Yeah, very, and he really in the system too. I'm sure that that kind of piqued everybody's interest to see what a real big time stretch floor 4 would have been done for that system, because I don't think he's really had anything like that. The next one is Braxton Beverly. Appeared in 17 games and started 14 of them. This is A-Dub's guy, right from Hargrave. Went out and played with Keats. Comes back home. Average almost 10 a game, 1.4 steals, 3.5 assists, shot at 36% from behind the line across almost 6 attempts a game, which that's something that I didn't really even think he took 6 a game. And he's a shooter, right? So that kind of gives you like, that was probably very effective shots. Had a couple games last year where he looked like he could have been the guy, right? Jack State, he lights it up. USC lights it up. Really seeing Braxton Beverly come back and play at Kentucky after, seeing him in high school as well. Just very cool experience. Just another guy who, I mean, out there with just pure heart, sometimes looked like he was, he was like an old man, like a NBA vet on the bike, just trying to get ready sometimes for like the games, like we saw him doing. And you feel for him, man. It's just crazy. He would take some lumps out there, but would give it his all. And really the times he did play, man, was just an absolute stud. Yeah, so it's going to be tough to see Beverly leave too as well, right?
Yeah, look, I think probably came in a little bit damaged, I guess. I mean, even early in the spring, spring practices and stuff, he didn't go full on. But what sort of stuck out for me with Braxton was I spent most of that early part of the season trying to figure out how he exactly fit, and then sort of the last game, really, when he got hurt, they ran several pin down screens for him, and he popped out. I mean, I think he made like that was his best game overall, and it's like, this is how he fits. This is how the game comes to him.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was almost like they finally figured out, like with the EKU system, and then kind of how they use it in NC State as well. Like, this is how he gets open. This is how we're going to get him his shots he needs. And you're right, man. It was like just too late. You know what I mean? To figure
Yeah.
all that out. And then Rashard Cruikshank, man, that's just another vet, man. Played in 31 games, started in 19 of them, 2 seasons, a top 15 steal percentage, unbelievable on ball defender. Seemed like a real heart and leader of a team. Presence will definitely be missed for sure. And we'll go on to Jamaro Brown. Probably the most polarizing figure, I would say, from the Eastern faithful. I would say averaged double figures each year, 18 a game his sophomore year. Didn't really shoot the three well. 31% over the years at EKU. Career average of 2 assists and 3 turnovers. So just the turnover ratio wasn't there. Usage numbers are crazy, man. Second in his total career at OVC and 17th in his time at Eastern in the country, right? So don't know if this was on purpose. Like we kind of I talked last episode about Asajala being in top 10 of usage. I think that is very deliberate, that he gets the ball and they run through things through him. And according to KenPom, when he was on the floor, and this is no one was within 20% of the possession time that he had when he was on the floor. Went and I think tried to go pro after his sophomore year, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And really, at times, especially during the kind of year that him and Mayo kind of crossed in, at times, when the offense wasn't there, this was the guy. It's like, hey, you got 6-7 seconds on shot clock. Jamaro's going to get you a shot, whether you like it or not, whether it's the best shot or not. He's going to have a chance, man, to really put points up. I mean, that is a real thing. And I think I've already likened someone to J.R. Smith, but he is a very true and tried. Like J.R. Smith may take some shots that you're just going to absolutely, like you're going to absolutely turn your head sometimes, and then sometimes you're going to be like, hey, pass the damn ball, but then you're going to look up some games and he's got 40 and you won. Where did he go, Pops? Where did he transfer to?
He went to Coastal.
Coastal, right? What do you think anything changes for the young man? You think he shows out there at Coastal, or still kind of ball dominant guard?
Yeah, I don't know how that you change your whole DNA, and that's what Jamaro is, right? He wants to get downhill, and he's just got going one direction all the time.
Yeah, man. I it's one of those guys, man. It's just you love him when he's on, and then when he's not on, it's kind of tough to watch. I think really the final, and really not a departure, would be Iron Bennett. Big body, came from Marshall, really didn't play at all, but I mean, he is an absolute 5-star of a person, and he is a massive person. Like that is if he could have played, I think he almost makes Brandon Huffman look small if he plays. Just kind of getting around at his size. I think he's still around the program. Like I said, 5-star person. It's good to have him around, but just another guy, one of those guys that's like, we wish we could have seen him full health, man. Wish could have got him when he was a freshman or sophomore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, look, it might have made a difference. I felt like the team got bullied around a lot last year because it didn't have a lot of length or size, especially down in Jacksonville. Jack State got pushed around a little bit, and he could have made a difference, I think.
Big time could have made a difference. So with all those departures, and really you look down through there and you lost veterans, right? You didn't lose any guys who just made a stop. Well, now, some of those veterans came in just for the year, but they all had legit experience that they came from. You could put that on paper as they come into the team. So I think that's why that expectation was so high for that team last year, right? Because you could say, oh, this guy's already done it in these places. We have the all-time leader in blocks at Marshall. He's going to do it here, right? So I think that's kind of why that fell a little short. Now, when we talk additions, now we already said, A-Dub does a great job, man, of getting everybody hyped up in Richmond to come and watch these guys play. And it's really, it's almost Calipari-esque. And I hate to even do that because we're 25 miles away, but it is very much, the hype is so real around these recruiting classes, and he does so well recruiting that it's these additions that make or break the team, I would say. And really, you have to start, and I'm going to keep on my little Wendell Green thing here. You got to start at the guard position, and we're going to start with Leland Walker, 6'1", 185, originally an Indy product, went and played at Hargrave, so you can already see that connection there. It's been an absolute gold mine, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, good night. Like, Hargrave's one of the best prep schools out there. And really, depending on what website you look at, he might have been the highest ranked, highest rated in the ASUN, like recruiting wise, as a freshman. Had offers from Xavier, DePaul, Providence, VCU, chose EKU. Those are all legit programs, and he chose EKU. And just real quick on Hargrave, just because maybe we get this gets to A-Dub as well. Got to improve their website, man. I mean, big prep school, little to zero info on historical stats and everything. Your college team got to do better. This kid, just from highlights, once again, this is all speculation, but absolute pro at paint touches, in my opinion, and that's something you're going to value. He can get there whether you like it or not, and will absolutely break people down to get there, and can do it at will. Can shoot it. Does have decent form. Doesn't look like it's like a broken shot that he can't actually shoot it. And he will, he'll have to come in and actually shoot it a little bit, right? Not just get to the rack all the time. I think he kind of brings that dog mentality that kind of Wendell Green had. He's one of those guys that he is going to be pivotal for this team right away. Any thoughts on, is Leland going to be the guy, and what's on his shoulders?
So after seeing him in person, I'm actually really favorably impressed. He got a D1 body, actually, at 6'1". He's a guy that's strong enough to, like you said, to get to the 10 and actually finish some shots. Even though he's a 6'1" guy, probably could still slide in at the 2. So in addition to playing some 1, so yeah, I think he's a big piece of how successful this team goes.
Yeah, and I think it's actually a good thing. I think we waited to do this one too, because we got to watch a little bit of them going down to the Bahamas and play. And it's interesting that kind of when I first was going through this in my mind, I was like, there's no way you can play a Leland Walker or this next guy we're going to mention together just because of their size. But really, when you look at them, then you watch them play, they play with so much physicality that you could see them actually playing together. And then the guy I'm talking about is Tayshawn Comer, 5'11", 175, Cathedral product out of Indy, averaged 16 and 6 on a legit high school program. That's a very legit high school program. Led them to 22 and 6 his final year, and top 10 in a hoop state. That's legit. Held offers from Appy State, Ball State, Belmont, chose EKU. Another absolute dog. Really, in my opinion, just from kind of looking at their highlights and stuff, he might be the more playmaking variety, and Walker might be more of, hey, we need to go get one variety. The game in the Bahamas really didn't kind of tell either way. I feel like he's going to be one of them, have the more possession value, more usage percentage. Comer will, and really be counted on to handle. Really, his pacing off pick and roll, just the little clips you see, is just crazy. I think he already navigates a pick and roll like a veteran. So him just being able to do that day one is crazy. Both of these guys, though, I think played a little bit together or just kind of grew up together, played against each other. Actually, if you go on a deep dive on YouTube, like the brother or cousin of Ruben Studdard interviews both of these dudes at the same time, and they're young at the time. So that whole thing was hilarious, a little awkward too. But you can tell that they're friends, but at the same time very different. And I think that actually says something to their game as well. As you have two guards here or dogs. Can play at a very high level, but very different. Like, do you think Comer adds a little something that Leland maybe doesn't have, or vice versa?
Yeah, look, hopefully, I mean, what you see in him early is that he can be a true sort of lead guard first, and with three returning starters, I mean, I think that's what you hope for, and that's A-Dub's specialty, right? He wants to have that point guard. It's an extension of him. I mean, I think that's really coming back to Wendell. That's sort of one a big key to that success is, and to his formula really is having that kind of lead guard that plays that way.
Yeah, you have to have that lead guard, and it's not maybe necessarily a lead guard who gets buckets like a Jamaro Brown, but more of a guard who can facilitate, who can really start that break, or even start the break off a steal, right? Because they're up in people's grills so much. And I think what we've already seen from practice and from the exhibition, that both of these guys will get up and guard. That's not going to be an issue. They're going to pick up the full length of the court. Really, I think I think one of them will end up standing out. I think if this goes really well for EKU, I don't know if there's like one way that both of them, because of the returners, I don't know that there's a way that both of them really stand out year one. Even if it goes really well, I think one of these guys will end up being like freshman of the year candidate if this goes really right for EKU.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, I hate to make those you got to make those Wendell Green stuff. That he's just going to be in everybody's mind when you bring in big guards like that you have now. And speaking of another big guard, and this is really from hashtag Team Big Guard, Taylon Martin, 4-star prospect coming out of high school, rated as the 35th best JUCO prospect by JUCOrecruiting.com. Average 12, 5, and 2, 1 steal a game as a sophomore at Southern Idaho. Had offers from Connecticut, Syracuse, Rutgers, Pittsburgh, VTech, Marquette coming out of high school. So you can see what kind of talent that was. Absolute freak athlete. When he jumps, it looks like one of those dudes that like you just hit the game freezes on 2K and he's just kind of stuck in the air. Even when we were at the practice the other day, it's like we saw him kind of break somebody down and then he lifted off and I'm, going to turn to talk to you and he's still floating. Then all of a sudden he just bangs it in. I'm like, I stand up and look around. Everybody else is like, what just happened? Right. Because you just don't even that's the kind of jumping ability he has, just like he hangs there. I think what's interesting about him is he has the ability to be an absolute menace on the defensive side. If you think about it, 6'4", that long, that athletic, in this kind of tempo, with this style of play, man, and potential switches all the way down to the 4 spot because he is so long. In my opinion, that is the place where he can make the biggest impact, a la a Kurt Lewis of 2021. I think you can slot him into that kind of role and he can be an absolute menace. He did shoot it from 33% behind the line last year. So really, I don't expect him to be somebody that they lean on early to shoot it. I mean, you have Michael Moreno, who's got one of the best strokes in the ASUN, Cooper Robb, who's going to shoot it. I mean, you got shooters, Blanton, who's going to shoot it. I don't think that's something that he's going to have to come in and do, but the way they play, man, if the ball gets to you and it's open and you're behind the line, you got to shoot it, right? And we even saw it in the exhibition in the practice too. It's like, it's not a bad shot. He's got good form. And so, you hope he shoots it a little better than a 33% clip. But at the same time, man, being 6'4", that big of a freak athlete, in my mind, he adds something a little different than maybe Hamilton's had in general. I don't know if we've had an athlete at this kind of flex position, I would say, throughout. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I agree with that. When I think about obviously when you have a team that lost as many games as that one did last year, it has lots of weaknesses. But if I pointed to one, it would be that they had to upgrade, and it was athleticism. And boy, does this guy bring it in spades. Just a really high level athlete.
Yeah, and that's a great point, man. All of the departures we even mentioned, right? Like you wouldn't put those guys besides Kurt, even Kurt Hurt, but you wouldn't put those guys as your top athletes, right? But the people we're listing now, all these additions, man, have more athleticism than what we're used to.
Yeah, for sure.
And once again, I think Taylon Martin, if you're doing a top 10 newcomer at the end of the year. I think he's up there. We'll be if this goes right, once again, if this goes right for EKU, you would talk about all ASUN newcomer team, in my opinion, if there was such a thing. I think it'll be big for him. The next guy would be John Okamadu, 6'7", from Macomb Community College, second team JUCO All-American last year. All conference, all region, everything. He got every award pretty much. Average a touch over 14 and 6, 33% shooting behind the line. A couple mixtapes on YouTube say, he's the next Anthony Davis and da 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 da. So that was interesting to say somebody's the next AD. But what's crazy about this, and once again, this is another guy that I don't know if Hamilton's had anybody like him. 6'7", looks like to be able to handle and get his own offense with the same kind of unbelievable athleticism that we're talking about we need. That size and that ability to handle what this guy looks. I mean, his arms, we saw he's just super long, goes for days. If he can defend, once again, it's like Taylor Martin. Him and Taylor Martin could be absolute menaces on the defensive end, 1 through 5 switching because of their length. Really, he could be a second creator opposite of the guards, right? You get a bad switch on him because they're going to be out there. Just the amount of size that's out there at Jacksonville State, FGCU. Like, there's some legit size of people bigs who can't really switch. He gets on a big, or if you play him at the 4-5, he can bring one of those guys, the big guys, out and absolutely break them down. And I think he can do that right away. He's going to shoot it a little bit. We saw him shoot. He can shoot it. Already dunked on a few guys down there at the Bahamas. This guy is kind of one of those ones for me. It's like you can kind of follow the track record of the guards and say, okay, one of those guys is going to be legit. You can see Taylor Martin, had those big offers, did some things already. This is one of those like unknown products for me. It's an unknown piece. Like, I think he has a potential to be maybe one of the best players on the team, but we just don't know, right? What do you think about just kind of I've never seen anything like him here. Like this big, this long, this athletic, and can do a little bit of everything. It's hard to reference a player from EKU history.
Yeah, I think, as you know, it's pretty high on this guy when we first got him, right? He's skilled, carries all the ball skills, can shoot it, handle it. I guess my one concern about him after seeing him in person is the opposite of what I thought about Walker, is that he's pretty skinny kid, pretty not necessarily D1 ready body, but not to say he still can't contribute, but certainly not going to be a guy that is 6'7" and you can count on to go down and bang with some of the bigger guys.
Right. And really, he's the most interesting to me. If you could slide him in at the 4 spot and really not have to bang a ton, but at the same sense give you that super flexibility and just have a ton of people on the floor with those ball skills. I think that's where you're seeing him. He's going to bulk up, I'm sure, over time. The strength and conditioning coach there is going to do his thing. It may be this year, it might not be. I think it's one of those things we're going to kind of see who sinks or swim once that ASUN conference schedule rolls around. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to Isaiah Cozart, and that's Richmond product, man, right down the street from Massa Central, 6'7", big with crazy length, played at Western for 3 years, sat behind some NBA bigs. I mean, it's not like he was just out there not playing. Averaged 5 minutes a game throughout his career, almost a block in those 5 minutes a game. So you stretch that over 40. Could be a real deal stopper. I think that's what, coming out of high school, it's what he was considered, right? A real deal, will block anybody's shots down there. His length is legit D1 length. On offensive end, I'm not sure he's gonna give you like what a Jansen Williams did. He's gonna be a great rim running, catch a lob and finish on somebody. Doesn't have the step out. But it's just hard, once again, with the people who don't have that track record of being a transfer with those stats like you had last year. It's hard to expect, or what to expect, right? So you go from playing 5 minutes a game potentially being the go-to big for this team. I think he adds a great piece on that back line. They struggle once again on, we already talked about the 2-point percentage for the defense. Like it's one of the worst in the league. I think he instantly makes that middle of the pack just because of his length and his athleticism. Very cool to see him come back home. I'm so glad he chose to do it. I think he's going to be a big deal and a big piece. Now, do you think he comes in right away and is able to kind of bring that same shot blocking that he had in his, and really at Western and his high school days?
Look, I think it's a big get for A-Dub. I think getting the local guy back home, it's a big get for him. And I think yeah, I think one thing that's will always be there is he's a rim protector. He's a rim protector all the way through, and he'll contribute in that way. And I guess if I mentioned before that if there's one of the biggest sort of needs to fill from last year's club was athleticism. Well, if there's a second one, it's length, right? And he's the start of that. I think we again got pushed around a lot in the ASUN. I think maybe surprised at how big some of the clubs were compared to some of the OVC teams. So yeah, adding him, a local guy, and adding length is huge.
Yeah, very cool. I once again love the local aspect of all this, and we'll just keep talking about athleticism and bigs and go to David Onanina. Hope I did that right. I'm sure I didn't. 6'8", beast of a freshman kid at a Bishop O'Connell. He's a walking double-double in high school, averaged it. 3-star recruit, legit size and length. Could see him be a legit pick and roll lob finisher over the top. Backline defender. Just based on his YouTube highlights, I don't expect him to be like a 1-through-5 switch. I don't expect Kozart to be a 1-through-5 switch. Does look like he has a little bit softer hands than the bigs that we're probably accustomed to here, so can like catch it and finish when and that's really a freshman big of his size, man. When I say of his size, like this is a 6'8", 6'9" NBA ready body. I mean, I saw this dude. I was in the gym, saw him walk by, and it's like, oh gosh, like he's a different animal. If he can be like, by the end of the season, will be an interesting storyline for me. That of course is just me speculation, but by the end of the year, if he's the best big of all the bigs, that'll be a very interesting piece because I think it's there. I think if he can like find his spot because of his athleticism, just like you were saying, and his length and his just physicality, I think he can be that. Is he too young to do so is my big question.
Yeah, I think that is the question. I think he's got that is an exciting thought that you have that kind of body that could be your primary 5. But hopefully he's a guy that sticks around a few years and develops because I think it's huge potential there.
Yeah, no doubt. Unbelievable potential. And really, this is, I think, kind of trying to solve the big equation here. You bring in 3 bigs because, since the Trey King, and really Trey King wasn't even a big, but really haven't had a big that almost fit that prototype that he needs. I think he's still searching for what he wants on this level in terms of a 5 spot. And then this is the last guy he brought in is the Darden Capiti. Once again, I hope I said that right. 3 years at Florida Atlantic. Really, his top minute average was 7.8 his sophomore year. He's 6'10", man, and that's a legit 6'10" too. There is no that's probably without shoes on. I averaged over 2 blocks a game the previous 2 years with those minutes. I also averaged over a steal. Pretty good team last year, but not so much the rest of the time there at Florida Atlantic. So once again, it's just hard to tell. And I think I've said this in a couple other team previews that when guys come from, you don't play a lot on bad teams and then you kind of make a switch. It's just kind of hard to know what you're going to provide. But after seeing him in person, you know the size is going to be there. You know the athleticism is going to be there. What else does he bring? And I think, just as we talked about these 3 bigs, like they all have the size, they all have potential rim protecting. It's just kind of like what's going to rise to the top for me? Like who's going to be the guy out of those 3? And really my pick, and I'm sure it's going to be Kozart, right, to start out because he's the local guy, played the most out of all 3 of those. I think he'll get the first crack at it. Is there anybody of those three that you think that might like be an interesting, like maybe rise to the top, or do you think it's going to be Cozart's job to lose?
Well, I do, but I think that there's some benefit to just having a true rotation.
Yep.
Especially in a league that's going to be really physical in the post. Just having 15 fouls is not a bad thing. And there's one thing that I've been, and there's maybe only one thing that I've ever been critical of A-Dub at. Just like, come on, dude, bring in some tall guys. Well, he brought in tall guys this year.
That's right. Yeah, the height is there now, right? Like it's before it was like there was no small ball lineup because every lineup was small ball, right?
Yeah.
Like this year you can have legit NBA size, especially Ukamadu, right? You pair him next to one of these other guys, and that's a 4 or 5 of 6'7" or greater who can all rim protect, right? And that's going to be legit. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't think you can play any of those three guys together though. And I think that kind of leaves you at a same, but you said 15 fouls. I mean, 2-point percentage is one of the worst in the league, right? You take 15 fouls, man. I'm sure those 2-point attempts for you, they're going to decrease a little bit, right? Even if we're just beating the shit out of everybody, it'll decrease.
Yeah, maybe that's the strategy.
Yeah, maybe, and they're big enough.
Yeah.
And really, the last two pieces here, Turner Buttrey out of Kentucky, Kentucky Mr. Basketball, local product, once again, played right up the road in Berea, 5'10" guard who can absolutely catch fire in a hurry, can shoot it from deep. Really similar to Colin Porter at a Liberty. I think they may even play together at some point. From the city, so that's a huge plus, man. I will instantly bring some pop when he comes off the bench. I don't think he's going to play right away, but he can instantly stretch the floor. I know that about him, right? He's going to shoot it from anywhere and can shoot it well from anywhere. It'll be fun to see him grow in this program is what I'm interested in. It's like, where is he going to be in 2 or 3 years? Is he going to be a guy or not? And I think that'll be cool to watch. And then the last piece, and I was somebody we're both high on after watching what we've watched, is Jackson Holt, 6'3" guard at Moravian Prep, made 172 3-pointers and shot at 48% from behind the arc, averaged 15 points per game, hit 10 or more 3-pointers in 3 different contests, including a 58-point performance in which he connected on 18 threes. Can't even say those sentences again because that's insane. 1,500 points scored in high school. Really, and I'll just be honest, seeing this, the late ad, I'm like, oh, okay, who is this fella, right? Like, what did we add here? But I'll tell you, watching him play basketball is a completely different thing than just reading that on paper. Very long for his height, very, very long. Athletic, once again, another athletic guy. Plays extremely hard and really plays with urgency. Shout out to anybody who's watched the Bear, but plays with a lot of urgency. And he's almost to the point now, and like I've only seen him in practice and then that one game in the Bahamas, like if he gets an open look and it's going up, like I feel pretty good about it already. Just really enjoyed watching this kid so far. Any thoughts on him, Dad? Like how he fits or what he brings? I just think that's such an interesting piece.
Yeah, it's just it looks so do I. Like I thought, well, when I read about that signing, it's like that's nice. Well, zone buster type shooter once in a while, may get a few minutes. But after seeing him a couple of times against competition, this guy's a basketball player. He digs in on defense. He can sort of create his own shot. Really sort of surprising, kind of a exciting piece, actually.
Yeah, very cool. I'm really interested to see how he's used. And really who he plays around and what lineups he's featured in, but very, very interested there. So that's the additions, man. And with an A-Dub team, I think the list is always going to be long and always going to be interesting because of how well he does at recruiting. But the returners this year, and really it's kind of the same guys we were talking about last year, but the returners are so solid, so solid that it's always the X factors of who they're bringing in because we're going to list them here, but your number one for me is Devontae Blanton, 6'6" forward out of Ohio, 11 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, 1.2 steals, shot it above 40% behind the line last year. He was 20th in win shares in the conference, 9th in offensive rating, 19th in true shooting percentage, 14th in points produced, 19th in PER. Really, this might be one of the best players in the conference that people who don't follow the conference don't know about, right? Like, he's probably the guy that other coaches who have written down and know a ton about, but your everyday fan doesn't. On the offensive end, and I hate to just like make these big comps, but on the offensive end, he can get to his spot, and it's usually that kind of mid-range. It's almost like a Kawhi Leonard-esque. Really has the ability to manipulate those mismatches too, based on the size of the defender, because he always plays bigger than his size. Like I said, loves to get to that mid-range shot, really elevate and score over people. He took a step last year, and he could shoot it from behind the line, which was huge. Keeping that consistently and still creating that offense will still be there. And really, it looks like whatever he looks like he put on 15, 20 pounds of muscle, man. Like, so I would hate to arm wrestle dude now, from when he came in as a freshman to now. He looks like it's NBA body now. Especially what we know about the guards coming in and the guards in the AW system, and really him being just an absolute like efficiency stud, really on both ends of the floor. I really wonder like what a jump for him looks like. You know what I mean? Like what could he add that's going to be featured in this offense? The ball's going to be moving, of course, but I think this guy's just so good at what he does.
Yeah, truly, actually a stopper for A-Dub too. I mean, he said many times in his interviews that this was a guy he put on the other team's best wing on the defensive end. If he run a set at the end of the game when they had to have a basket, it was usually going to Blanton. So yeah, it's a great point about where does he go after that year last year? What's the next jump look like? Really can't wait to see that.
Yeah, and really, just from what he has in Bahamas, he had a stretch there for about 5 to 10 minutes where obviously he's one of the best players on the floor, anyways, but it was almost like he was scoring anytime he wanted it, right? Hit 2 threes in a row. Next time, broke somebody down, one dribble pull up. Next time, racked some small guy that switched on him. I think when he picks his spots, I'm almost thinking that his points per game increases substantially because the piece of him having to even handle a bunch, like when he gets it, I think he's already going to be in the spot this year. I think on the offensive end, he's actually going to have help and not have to guard, say, the team's best guard. He's not going to have to do that every time if he doesn't want to. And then secondly, he is that 1 through 5 switch guy. So maybe that rebounding effort on both ends, like, yeah, they struggle at rebounding, but maybe with the size that kind of gives him some ability to be more creative on defense and offense as well. I'm so interested. I hope there's some kind of jump here. And once again, I love to play this game when I've done this with every team so far. But if this goes right for Eastern, I think he ends up being your leading scorer, and I think he ends up being a first-team All-A-Sunner. I think if it goes right, that's what happens.
Yeah, look, I see it that way too, and I think it's a great point about where he sets up. I mean, how many times did we see him, effectively posting up 15 feet away,
Yep.
and then having to work his way to the rim from there? So, yeah, I think if these guards, especially with the quickness they bring, can put him in a better position, yeah, there's lots of potential for him to even exceed the performance from last year.
Yep. And now we'll talk about probably Kentucky's favorite son, or EKU's favorite son, which is Michael Moreno, 6'7" forward. Now I've seen Mike play a lot through him just being at Scott County, and I don't know if he's 6'7", but plays like a daggone 6'7", 6'8", and always has, and really double digits the past 2 years. Rebounds over 5 in his career, knockdown from behind the line, increased to about 6 attempts last year and shot at 35% steal. And that volume increase, I think you expect a little regression on your percentage. 6th in PER last year, 12th in win shares last year, 3 seasons in the top 20 in the conference, 7th in box plus or minus, 3 seasons in the top 11, top 10 in offensive win shares, top 10 in defensive rating, and then one of the best turnover percentages in the NCAA. I could probably go on and on about why he is so good. and how he is so good. But if you watch basketball and you just pay attention to basketball, he could probably play on any team in the country and get minutes. That's just how good at the game he is, and without actually even having to get a shot up. I think he's that good. And you hear the numbers, and you hear like the great, how great of a guy he is and stuff like that. It's like, how do you get him featured on the offensive end, right? Like he definitely the ball always seems to find him, and he's open for a three, right? I always wonder, like, what does his game look like as this kind of wing forward that he plays now? And he looks like he's dropped some weight, so maybe moves a little bit better too. And just like Blanton, like I wonder what what a jump would look like for him. Like I always, and once again, I'm gonna make these wild NBA comparisons, but you would love to see him almost look like a Devin Booker at some point, because he can fill it up like that, and that is no joke. I mean, every time it touches his hands, he gets it out quicker than anybody else in the conference. And once it's just like, it feels like a layup at this point. You love to see him kind of create more for himself, but really with the two guards coming in, like, might not have to at all, right? I just don't know, right? Like his numbers are so good offense, like just both ends of the floor efficiency wise. Like, do you want him to take a leap? Do you want him to get better at anything else? He's already so good. I just am not sure, Pops, like where he goes from here. Does he just keep shooting better and getting more rebounds, or what do you think?
Yeah, so for him, we talked about what the guards might do for Blanton. Oh, I wonder what the bigs might do for him, like having legit bigs.
Great
Because
point.
I mean, he spent a lot of time playing the five last year, leaning on some big bodies, getting out away from the paint. I mean, arguably he's been the best passer on the team for the past couple of years. Also,
Yes.
he can be a true playmaker. They run some sets through.
Yeah, and that piece right there about having the bigs, he's always had to play bigger than his size. So taking that completely out of his role, not completely out. Of course, he's going to help rebound. He just is who he is in terms of being a great basketball player, but really not having to lean on those big guys and at the same time have legs to put up 6 threes a game. Um, I think that'll do wonders for him. Now, I think we'll probably look at similar stats at the end of the season than probably what he's already done. But I mean, the team goes with this guy, right? Like he's going to be Mr. Consistency. He's already your captain, been the captain. One of my favorite players to watch, man. Very interested to see just kind of how he grows this year and everything. And then really to his running mate, which is Cooper Robb, 6'1", all dog team, probably the dog of the A-Sun. Transfer in from Charlotte a couple years ago, averaged 9 a game last year, over a steal in each year he's played. He's taken around 5 threes a game the past 2 years and shot it at 32% and 36%. Very streaky, so I think the percentage-wise, you're kind of see it go up and down, but because he's streaky, right? Like you'll see him make 1 or 2, and he's an absolute game breaker. He's going to make 1 or 2. It's going to end up being 4 or 5, and then you're already down 20, right? Because of the tempo. First in the conference in the steals last year, top 20 in defensive win shares both years, defensive box plus or minus leader in both the CUSA and OVC at some point. Furious defender. I mean, sometimes, like, I'm a fan. Sometimes I even feel bad for the kids he's guarding. It's like, just give him a chance, right? It's that like old adage. It's like he's still guarding him when he went to the bathroom, right? Like, I don't understand how he doesn't get more, like people get mad at him and stuff. He's just that intense of a defender. Really, the consistency piece from behind the line would be nice to see out of Coop this year. And I think you're going to see that more because he's not going to have to be counted on for offense, because we've already kept talking about all these offensive pieces and where's all this offense going to go? Well, I mean, it's going to help out Coop too, right? Like he doesn't have to force anything. He's going to get probably wide open threes instead of people hands in his face. Because you could look back some of the film from last year, man. He took a lot of shots, people hand in the face, and still made it. So I think he slides in my opinion, right besides one of the guards, and still plays that guy of that Patrick Beverly on defense, but can still shoot it. I mean, now he's hurt. It seems like he's hurt as of now, and really he's kind of been always banged up because of the way he plays. What do you think? Do you think? And that's one of those another ones. Like, I'm not sure. Like, what he adds. Like, do you want Cooper Robb just to be Cooper Robb and just let the ball find him, or do you want him to be more of a playmaker? But you brought playmakers in. You know what I mean? I think you just continue to be one of the best defenders in the ASUN.
Yeah, okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So a guy that appreciates the hell out of defense. There's nothing wrong with being a stopper, and I would say for him too, having the extra troops will help. How many times did he play 40 minutes in overtime games, 45 and 50 minutes, and not seem to actually be affected by it all?
Full sprint the whole time.
Right. So you got to believe as a shooter, it's got to be better to play 32 minutes than 40, and maybe you get some of that consistency.
Yep, for sure. And taking a little bit of those minutes away, let him get his legs back. It'll be fun to kind of see what he does full health. And it's like, hey, Cooper, you got 10 minutes. Give whoever you're guarding the most hell, and that they're going to give Chase Johnson everything you got. Give Darius McGee everything you got for the next 10 minutes and prove you're the best defender in the league. And those are those matchups, man. It's like I get those tinglies just talking about seeing him. You know what I mean? Seeing him guard those guys. So that's going to be huge. Cannot wait to see that guy play. And then I'm gonna kind of group these two together because not really. We'll talk about Michael Wardy first. 6'7" forward, transfer a year ago from JUCO. Freakish athlete. I mean, he can put his head on the rim if he wants to. Can defend multiple positions. Was 12th in blocks per game last year. With the bigs coming in, right? Like, he was a 5 when he played last year, but he's one of those guys. Like, is he 6'7"? Is he 6'5"? I'm not really sure. Definitely a rim running, pick and roll lob finisher. Not really sure now with those 3 bigs coming in. It's like you throw him in there as well. It's like, does he slide more to the 4 and kind of show you that he can kind of stretch it a little bit? Because I saw him. I mean, he took one in the Bahamas, right? Like, he's got the little bit of stroke there. Like, I don't know if that's going to be a thing or not. He gives you a more flexibility, in my opinion, than the other 3 bigs coming in do, but less of that rebounding, shot blocking potential. So what do you sacrifice, right? I think that's the ultimate coaching question here. Is like, I think he is that's one of your athletes from last year. You didn't have very many athletes. You have a big time athlete here that stayed. Where does he slide in? Do you see him more of as a 4, Pops, or do you see him playing with another big, or do you see him still playing 5?
Yeah, look, that's a tough one. I think one of the things from last year about Wardy is you saw him get pushed around a little bit when he played the 5. So I know A-Dub challenged him to put on some weight, and he looks like he has. Looks like he's added a significant amount of muscle over the offseason. I would say, he still doesn't have a big offensive game. He really doesn't have any tools around the basket. So, yeah, I think he still has to steal some minutes at the 5, probably.
Yep. Yeah, and it's one of those things, man. I think they'll all be put in situations to sink or swim. And I think that'll be cool to see in a non-conference how those 4 guys kind of develop. And really the last person I'll mention, and there's just not a ton of stats on him because he didn't play a lot last year, but Deshaun Jackson, 6'3", 6'4" guard out of Lexington, another local kid, which is awesome. Can shoot a little bit, can get his offense a little bit, but really, man, seeing him play in the Bahamas was so refreshing. Like, you're maybe not playing against some great competition, but man, was he active? Like, the ball found him. He was a menace on defense. It'll be interesting to see because I mean he would be a veteran, not a veteran of the squad, but he's been around here, right? He knows the system, knows how to play in it. Like, I love to think, like, what if this guy takes a leap, man? What if he becomes like another stopper, right? Like, I mean, you add in that with Rob and Blanton of legit defenders on the wing. I mean, that could be a thing, right? Even if it's just a guy who comes in and brings a ton of energy on both ends of the floor. I'm guessing he gets some minutes this year. And I don't know what it looks like, but just from him being that active, and I think we both know, like, A-Dub loves that, right? That tenacity. I think when you play like that, you earn minutes. I think he gets some this year, and I'm just not sure what it looks like, but he does.
Yeah, look, I hope so. I don't really. It's hard to envision what that where those minutes come from.
Yeah.
But it's a guy really that I thought played. He played too fast when he did get a chance last year, almost nervously.
Yeah.
But and look, and it's one scrimmage game. But look, certainly this game in the Bahamas, he looked like a different kind of player. So if that's really who he is when against good competition, he'll find his way and he'll find minutes somewhere.
Yeah, and you know what? Every other person who's not an Eastern fan is going to be like, "What the hell are you guys talking about the Bahamas game?" But you have to remember here, you're talking
Yeah,
to two A-Sun fanatics, EKU fanatics as well too, and that's like we got a piece of live basketball the first week of August, and you're going to tell me I'm not going to overanalyze that film? Come on now, you know where you're at. You're at the Sunnyside.
that's
Um, and really, so now you you zoom out, man, and there's your lineup as a whole. You have such a strong returning core of guys that you know can already play or proven. Blanton, Rob, Moreno, all very proven dudes with a ton of X factors. Well, your new guys, right? A lot of unproven. Just like I said before, like your additions to the team last year were guys that you could say, okay, you've had college success, it's going to translate, and it didn't. Okay. These are the guys who have not had college success. I mean, I guess Okamadu, because he did great at JUCO, not a ton of college success, and now we're going to see how it translates. That piece right there, man, is going to make or break all of it, I think. And really, okay, now this is my favorite part. Now, Pops, this will be the first time in your piece of this segment of the lineup segment. But man, this is something I can remember me and you doing as me being a young kid, kind of talking about lineups of different people. But the potential lineup piece, because of the amount of people they have and the guys they have, this has been the hardest piece for me. This has been the hardest team, and maybe it's because it's closest to my heart. But I will go first with the go-to lineup of who I think. Well, I'll tell you who I think A-Dub will play. How about that? And the lineup will be Comer, Rob, Blanton, Moreno, Cozart. Can we probably, both of us, I'd say, do you agree on that's who you think will walk out there if everybody's healthy?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, and I'd be surprised actually if somebody's going to have to really play well to crack that. Even I'd not even go that far.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and we just talked about those returners, right? Like, and that's the hardest piece of all this, right? Because you have those three absolute studs in Rob, Blanton, and Moreno that any lineup you make, like, you don't include those guys. Are you really talking about the best lineup you can have?
Yeah.
I don't think so. But here we go. We'll have a little fun here, and I'm gonna do a press lineup. This is kind of a press smaller lineup. And I went Comer, Walker, Blanton, Moreno, Martin. Now, we just talked about easing up Blanton and Moreno, not having to rebound and guard bigs. And I know that puts that right back on them. But good night, man. If you go Comer, Walker, Martin as your main ball handlers, as your people who kind of initiate offense and get up in other guards, I mean, Jesus Christ, I don't like that to lead that top 25 tempo. That's your tempo lineup, I think. You still get your shooting with Blanton there. You still get your shooting with Moreno there. Now the hard part is the defensive end. So that's my fun kind of press up tempo lineup. What do you got here, Pops? You got anything fun?
Yeah, look, I see lots of those kinds of combinations. Like I could even see, and look, I think what we've seen out of A-Dub over the years he's been here, so he for all the up tempo basketball, he really wants to settle into a 7 or 8 man rotation.
Yeah.
But if you truly wanted to do a full on line change, boy, this is the team to do it, because you could really go fully athletic with that second unit, right? With Walker, Martin, you come to take Wardy at the 5. I mean, you could really have a just crazy athletic second unit.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that too, because really, if you go with like a go-to lineup of your more traditional style, and then you bring in some guys with their hair on fire, like just like you said, Walker, Martin, Ukamadu, and then throw in Holt in there as well to add in some offense who plays with his
Right.
hair on fire too. I mean, you throw those four and do a complete line change, and you come out of a TV timeout and you're the other team, and you're like, oh shit, they're
Yeah.
all fresh, we're already breathing hard, and we're not only did they just sub in the best athletes they have, but we have even more shooters to worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, so interesting. um, I do think at some point you will see some the Ukamadu at the 4-5 mixed in with Blanton Moreno. Like I think you'll see them go small with him playing big. Or maybe he plays along with Wardy to kind of keep that size there. But I do see, just like you said, he does drill down to that 7 or 8. So one of those bigs by the end of the season will be the big, right? And will be the rotational stalwart. And then you kind of see, right? Like, and I want to kind of loop back to this whole Wendell Green thing. He came out with Comer and Walker together at the Bahamas. Now, once again, the Bahamas game. Rob injured, but you come out with both of those guys at the same time, and you think, well, maybe they're too small. Maybe on switches you just get picked on. You didn't see it there. Now it's a one exhibition, but maybe is he kind of maybe he's thinking playing these guys together. But my thought, right, if you want to go back to the Wendell Green theory, if you can put those two guys together in my head to make up a Wendell Green stat line, that's where you truthfully win and that's where you truthfully succeed. I don't know if it's Comer being all ASUN freshman or Walker being all ASUN freshman, maybe a combination of both of them being on the team, all ASUN team, but maybe not being the freshman of the year. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Yeah. Look, uh, I think I'm a believer now that Walker could play the two, that they could play together just because of his body. I think he's, like I said, true D1 body on him. So could he play the two even though he's only 6 feet tall? Possibly.
Yep. And then, that was one of my big X factors there, already listed. And then really the second X factor I had here down is Moreno Blanton. And we talked about it, man. It's like two of the best and the most effective players in the league, both on the same team, both kind of play the same position. What do their years look like? I truthfully believe that if this goes right, one of them is all ASUN first teamer. I think that'll be a big X factor if one of those guys lead in scoring, I think, for sure. And then another one I had written down here is like, does the tempo stay the same, right? Does it stay in the top 25? Does the efficiency increase, or does the 2-point percentage, the finishing percentage on the defensive end, does that, like, what happens there? Does, with the tempo still staying in the top 25, I think you have to give up some of that. So what does that look like with legit shot blockers down there? You know what I mean? I think that's going to be a huge X factor of maybe not how many blocks we average, just how well the other team shoots it from the paint.
Yeah, look, I mean, it improved efficiency. It's so important to setting up their defense. So how many more turnovers could they get if they shot 40% instead of 31%?
Yep. Yeah, very true. All right. Now we're going to try to, I'm not going to be a homer about this. Okay. And I'm going to read off these games. And I know that you're probably going to say dub on each one of them just because you're freaking draped out right now, man. But I'm going to go through here, man. And really I've been now minus the Lipscomb. Lipscomb just got me hyped up. I can't even tell you. But I'm going to go through here and be a little bit more harsh just because I think I'm setting myself up to not get my heart broken. I don't want to say we're going to win a ton and then I'll be disappointed. But you start off the first half of January, man, and you start off on the road at Kennesaw State and at Central Arkansas to start. I think you split that. I'm not even going to tell you about who they beat, but I hope to God they split it. And that's where I'm at on those two. What do you think about those two? You think there's one that sticks out there that they win, or Do you think they drop both?
No, boys, the split would be kind of a best
That's
case
a
scenario. I
yeah,
think.
best case scenario.
Yeah, because you're talking about two clubs that really play a lot alike. You're going to be really physical out on the wings.
So
And
physical.
how does a young team respond to that sort of physical play? We'll see. But yeah, I think a split would be for a best case scenario.
I mean, you talk about young guards going up against young blood and Hunter to start their ASUN career, and those are two dogs that you're going to have to go into their place. And once again, I've said this before, there's nobody who wants to go to Conway, Arkansas and play this year. In the middle of nowhere in Arkansas to play against those tough guys. There ain't nobody who wants to go down there.
No, those guys are tough, man. They I would have picked them easily to not win a game last year, but just sheer toughness. I mean, they were tough out every night.
So you go on a road trip to start. Then you come back home, man. It just gets better, right? Come back home and you get Liberty on a Sunday, and then you get a few days rest and you get Florida Gulf Coast. I think if you look at any other pundits out there who say they know what they're talking about, Liberty's number one, I think, across the board for me. But Florida Gulf Coast, just to the amount of horses they brought in, it's hard not to have them in the top 3-4. For me, I have those as losses. Now, it hurts my heart, but a split once again is a dub, in my opinion.
Yeah, it looks like it. If those happened 12 games into the conference season, we might feel differently about it. But you got a team club that's still trying to gel against that level of talent. It'd be tough to get a dub in there.
Yep. And then you get home, and really, that's once again, like I talk about this every other time, but man, that scheduling of having that Thursday, Saturday is huge for these mid-major programs, because if you can beat FGCU on that Thursday and then come home and you got Stetson coming in, that's an easy W, but you can get the crowd into it too, right? Like you can get people into it. So I have that as a win. You go into your second half of January, you go down to Nashville to take on Lipscomb, and really, just because of pure experience of who they have coming back, I have them dropping that game. And that's the start of a big road swing. And you got Lipscomb, Austin P, and Bellarmine. What do you think about those three in a row right there on a road swing?
Yeah, I think the Lipscomb stop is really tough.
That game might legit. And now my man Jim Root hollered at me today and said that Lipscomb might beat people in the 90s every game, like beat people 95 to 91. That game might be 110 to 101 or something by the time it ends.
For sure. Yeah. If you get one of those, maybe you win in Clarksville against Austin P. Pretty tough. Although beat Bellarmine on the road last year, possible.
Yeah, and that's why I think that's a great spot, right? If you can somehow, man, trudge to the end of that tough first part of January, and then you kind of get this home at home with Bellarmine to say, okay, we've had some lumps, we've beaten some teams here and there, but let's play a team that's going to be right in the same tier as us potentially this year. Let's play them at their house. Let's play them at our house. And now we're going to go into February knowing who we are. Because if you drop both of those away at Bellarmine and home against Bellarmine, that changes the tone of the whole season, in my opinion, especially going into February.
Yeah, coming back to that home game against Bellarmine will really be a pivotal point in the whole season, because coming out of that really tough opening schedule, you could really launch yourself into a great February, or it goes really bad.
I mean, can you imagine, right? Like if we're talking, you get a dub somewhere, Liberty, Lipscomb, FGCU, you just get one of those, and then you split with Bellarmine. I mean, you're talking about like that's top of that tier that everybody's been talking about, that kind of middle tough tier. That's up there if you can get two of those wins. So you start February with a home stand. Tough, man. Jack State and Kennesaw State right in that tier. And I'm going to say there's a split. I'm going to say it's a split as of now. I kind of changed my pick, but I'm going to say it's a split. But I think both of those are winnable. Those are both people in your tier at home, hopefully coming out of a good January. What do you think? Dubs?
I'm thinking you come back home, you beat Bellarmine after a tough opening slate, and then you take out both of those guys easy.
Yeah,
It's the start of something big right there.
Started something big right there. I can see Dad's already in his season tickets hyping the fans up over there. I love it, man. No, I'm hoping so, man. I hope both those are dubs at home. You go on a road swing. You kind of get, a softball at Queens. Hopefully you run over them, and then you get a real test having to go in to play Liberty. Once again, I feel sorry for everybody who has to play Liberty twice this year, but it's just going to have to happen a few times. And I'm not going to ever pick against them. I don't think that's a loss for me. But once again, man, these people beat up each other on the ASUN all the time. You just never know. Then you get home in Central Arkansas, and I think that's another one of those tests coming down the stretch there. It's like you're going to figure out who you really are at a game like that. Like the Central Arkansas is going to be there at the end. Get them at home. Got to win that one coming down the stretch if you're going to be anybody, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think that CARC game will be another big one, and especially I don't see anybody probably going into Liberty this year. And when I say anybody, I don't maybe nobody. Period.
No one. And when I say that I don't pick against them, there's not a game on their schedule that I would feel comfortable picking against the spread against those dudes. There's nothing against anybody else, right? Like that's how good they are.
Yeah.
But you have to, in my opinion, that Thursday, Saturday swing of Central Arkansas and North Alabama have to be W's if you're going to be anybody in the tournament. They have to be, especially because of your final two games at the road swing at North Florida and Jacksonville. North Florida is going to be in that tier with EKU, I believe, just with all those dogs in there. And Jacksonville, man, I think they're only getting stronger down there. So it's hard to pick winning either of those games, but you would hope maybe that North Florida game is going to mean a lot in terms of rankings. So I think that'll be a big, like maybe Pops, maybe we make the trip down there, man, in Feb. Maybe we take off work a few days. What do you say?
See some of these ASUN sites in person. I like it.
I mean, that's a nice little trip there. Both of them right there in Jacksonville. We could do that little Wednesday, Friday swing, get us a couple of 36 holes in.
Yeah.
So like all in all, I'm going to say, goodness, 8 and 9. I guess, or with some swing games in there. I don't know, man. I hate that. This is the one season prediction I hated to do. But I truthfully believe they have the potential to finish in that top 6. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting them in the top 4, but I could definitely see if this goes extremely right, they could finish 5. I think if just kind of right, you could slide in 6. But I think if you can finish in that 4 or 5, and just I'm gonna say this about everybody, man, if you can finish in that 4 or 5, 3, 4, 5 slot somehow and give yourself a chance going into the tournament, that's what it's all about. You're not going to get that number 1 spot. I'm sorry, you're not going to get it. If you can get that 3, 4, 5, that's what would be huge for this program, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, I'm a little more optimistic in that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm seeing a huge February with losses only at Liberty and at Jacksonville, and 10 and 7 finish in conference.
It's possible. Like that's what I'm not saying that's not possible at all. I think honestly, if you finish 10 and 7, that's a Devontae Blanton or Michael Moreno first team All ASUNer, and that's one of the guards or both guards being an All ASUN freshman team. 100%. I think if you finish in the top 4, it would be hard not to say A-Dub doesn't get some nods for Coach of the Year. If you can finish like that, I don't think it'd be too much to say. I mean, only his second season in ASUN.
Yeah, he will have done his best coaching job with 9 new
Yes.
players. If he gets it all to gel by February, like I just predicted, it'll be a huge coaching job out of him.
Yes, very much so. All right, man. That's it. I mean, this was one of my favorite ones to do. I'm glad you decided to finally show up.
Yeah.
We're gonna get you in here more often, man.
Yeah,
Maybe not EKU gear next time. Let's hope not.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to find some conference gear from the other clubs.
Well, I mean, look, I sat there and shouted out Jacksonville the other day, and I even talked to my man, the strength coach down there, and it's like, can I not get a shirt or something? Can we get a little, just some swag? And I'll wear it every time, man. Or let's keep on the tank top theme. Let's keep doing the Sunnyside theme.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you've made it this far, once again, you're either just a massive ASUN fan or you're a huge EKU fan, and we appreciate it. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. And I'm going to keep saying this until it's over. But if you get a chance, and I retweeted it a couple times today, if you get a chance and you have the ability to donate all you can to the folks out in Eastern Kentucky, really going through a hard time, if you can. And really your time is probably most valuable as well. So I know they're struggling there. We're going to keep chugging on with those team previews. Next is North Florida. We kind of jumped out of line here, but next is North Florida. Watched some video on the treadmill today. I watched 2 games today on the treadmill, so I'm pumped already to do that. Yeah, Pops, but thanks for joining us, man, and welcome to the sunny side, and always keep it sunny.
Yeah. Hey, thanks. Enjoyed it, and go Kerns.